gonna make a video today anyway, and I was gonna do the Warped Tour video today, just talking about in general what happened. But something happened today that I thought was an even better idea to make a video about, other than the Warped Tour video, because it literally just happened like 2 hours ago, and on the way home from it, I was like, oh my god, I have to make a story time video about this. And I know I look like shit, and I'm still in my workout clothes, and I'm going to explain that. The rest of the video is going to be explaining why I look like shit. And this is a story time video, and this one is a long one, but I hope you guys can listen to it and hopefully laugh a little bit. Maybe some of you guys can relate to it, but let's just jump right into the story. This is the story of the time that my new volleyball coaches nearly killed me. Let's get started. Okay, so as you can tell, I am still in my workout clothes because I literally just came back from this and I haven't changed yet. But so I'm transferring schools again for like the 4th time, and I have played varsity volleyball for like 3 years now. This is my 4th year, and so I've played junior varsity for a year, and then I've been playing varsity for 2 years, and so so of course I know the experience of varsity volleyball is hard, and it's a lot of hard work and stuff like that, with like conditioning and stuff like that, and just preparing yourself. And so because I'm switching schools again, and of course I want to play volleyball because I love it, my mom contacted the coach, and like they told her, like, hey, there's a gym that's like right by the school. It's a very small gym, but we like to go there and we just do stuff with volleyball. It has to do with conditioning, but it's just to prepare yourself, and we go there and we play volleyball and we have fun. And my mom, she was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, and she called me in. She was like, Kat, like they told me about this gym thing. It's like conditioning and stuff, but it also has a lot of stuff to do with volleyball, and it'll prepare you for tryouts. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. Like, I could meet new people, like, I could just, you know, have a good time. And she's like, all these girls are about the same age as you. A couple of them are a little younger. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that sounds okay. That sounds fine. Like, you know, I want to go. It sounds like fun. I was wrong. So when they say, when the people who contacted my mom, when they said there's going to be a gym and it's for volleyball training, I assumed that it was going to be a gym, like a normal fucking gym that had like a hardwood floor, like a nice glossy hardwood floor, like a high school gym that had lines and a volleyball net in the middle. That's what I assumed was going to be happening. And so, and when my mom said, like, hey, they're going to be doing some conditioning, I have been to so many different schools, and I've done so many different volleyball stuff, but basically, conditioning basically means the same thing everywhere I go. It basically means, like, they're going to get you, like, you know, revved up, they're going to make you do some running, and, like, maybe do some lunges and stuff like that. Like, they're going to make you, like, run from one end of the gym to the other, and they're going to make you do it all these different ways. And it prepares you for volleyball, like all the running and stuff like that, and doing lunges, of course, helps you get down low, and that's volleyball related. And they, like, she said they weren't going to be doing very much of it. So when she said conditioning at this gym, I thought that she was going to be taking me to a gym, like a high school gym, and we were going to be doing volleyball and conditioning, as in running laps and doing lunges and that normal type of volleyball stuff. Basically, this gym wasn't too far from my house. It was like a 10-minute drive. But I'd never been there before, so I didn't know, like, what it was. Like, I had, like, of course, like, driving back and forth from the school for, like, my enrollment interviews and stuff like that. Like, I had seen the place before, but I didn't know that it was a gym or that we were going to be doing volleyball stuff there. Like, I had seen the place before, but I didn't know that that's where we were going to be doing our stuff. So I was expecting to go to a really nice high school looking level volleyball gym. So the gym was about 10 minutes away from my house, and we got a little lost trying to get there, and we got to the road, and it was kind of out in the middle of scenic nowhere. Like, you know, like when you're driving out, like, kind of far away to, like, a friend's house or something that's, like, a 15-minute drive away from your house, and, so it's like a 15-minute drive away from your house, and there's only a couple things like gas stations and like rest stops and stuff like that along the way. That's what it was. So anyway, we kept driving, and my mom had the address of the place, but like neither of us had ever seen the place before. Like, of course we'd seen it before, but we didn't know that's where we were going to be practicing. Like, we've seen it occasionally driving back and forth from school, but neither of us had ever paid any attention to it. So she had the address to the place, and we're kind of in the middle of scenic nowhere. I don't have cell service, so like of course I can't look up where the place is. And I'm just like, okay, keep driving around. And she's like, are you sure this is the right place? And I'm like, yeah, that's the road, that's the street where you're supposed to turn, just turn up here. And so she's like, okay. And we turn, and the place is right there. This place was honestly the size of a gas station. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, you know how, like, in gas stations they have, like, the little pumps outside and then that tiny-ass building? That's how small the place was. And I was just like, are you sure this is a gym? Maybe it's one of those smaller gyms that, like, people install in their houses. Maybe it's a smaller gym. And so we're just like, okay, and we had to drive around to the back. And so I grabbed all my stuff. And I packed everything for volleyball. I had my volleyball shoes, I had my knee pads, I had my, like, deodorant and everything, which I knew I was going to need. But I didn't. That comes later in the story. So, so I had all that stuff, and I was like, ready, like, okay, we're gonna do volleyball, we're gonna work out, we're gonna do volleyball, a little conditioning, and then volleyball, because that's what the coach told my mom. And so I was expecting that we were going to be playing volleyball and having a good time, and I'm gonna be meeting new people. So we walk in, and literally, it was not a gym at all. And I mean, it was a gym, but it wasn't like a gym that will be used for volleyball. It was just one big workout room with like treadmills and like yoga balls and things like that. I don't know what the fuck the things in the workout room are called, but it was basically a workout room. And I'm just like, this is where we're going to be practicing? And my mom's like, maybe they might, like, because there was an empty space in the middle of the room, and they're just like, maybe they'll have you do some volleyball exercises there. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds fine. So we walk in, and there's like a little waiting room, and all the other girls are there. They're about the same age as I am, 14, 15, 16. That was how old most of us were. And maybe a couple of them were a little older, like 17 or 18, but there were only like 2 of them that were that way. The rest of us were like 14, 15, and 16 years old. So we were all just, sitting around having a good time. We were talking, and my mom was asking them a few questions. I'm really, really shy around new people, so I wasn't saying much. But like a couple of the girls were being really, really nice. They were like, so what school did you go to? Are you transferring? So, like, are you transferring here? Like, what school did you go to before? And, so, like, etc., stuff like that. So, like, all that stuff. Just general talking. And so I was like, so what kind of stuff do you guys do here? Is any of it too hard? And they're like, oh no! Like, it's great. Like, it's a good workout, and then we go out and play volleyball. It's great. You're gonna love it. And I was like, okay, like, they seem like generally friendly people. And I was like, well, who are the people who coach? And they said the guys' names, which I'm not going to say, but let's disguise their names real quick. Let's see, there was, I'm trying to think of a name to disguise. Hold on, because I'm not good with coming up with quick names. Okay, let's say the 2 guys who were coaching, let's say their names were Steve and Jordan. Steve and Jordan. And so they were just like, oh yeah, there's Steve, and then there's Jordan. And I'm like, oh, okay, that seems good enough. Like, I know they're both guys, but, like, of course, I've had guys as volleyball coaches before. They seem perfectly fine. And so I'm just like, okay, we're going to work out, we're going to play some volleyball. It's going to be fun. And they're like, yeah, it's over at 12:45. And, like, you can go home, relax, and then we come back and do it the rest of the week. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great. And so, so we just sat there and talked for a little while, and you weren't allowed to actually bring your water bottles into the actual gym area, which I thought was a little bit strange, but, like, I don't really think anything of it. So then the guy, Steve, walks in, and he's a fairly normal looking guy. He's real tall, and he's a really built, he's a normally built human being. He looks like a fairly athletic person. He's young, he's a fairly good looking person. Like, he looks pretty much normal. He looks like an athletic person, but he looks healthy. He looks like a pretty normal athletic person. And so, my mom was like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? My daughter's new, etc. And she talked to him, and he was like, oh, okay, we're just going to be working them today, and then we're going to go outside and play some volleyball. It's going to be fun. Yeah, he talked to my mom, and I wasn't listening to their conversation, but, we went into the gym, and, we started stretching, stuff like that, like doing our normal ass volleyball stretches. And so he was like, okay, girls, just find a partner. And this one girl who was there, she was super nice. She was a year younger than me, but she had been going to the school basically her whole life, and she was just transferring into high school, and she was super nice, and she was super nice, she was helpful, she was like, hey, you can be my partner, I'll teach you everything, it's so nice to meet you, and she was super sweet, and she was super nice, and she was like, okay, so, we did all our normal volleyball stretches, stuff like that, and we're just sitting there, talking, and then, Steve walks back in, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna run out to my car to get some of the other stuff that we need for today, and, Jordan will be here in a minute, and we're just like, okay. So I was asking the other girls, is the school good? What was your best season? How long have you guys been playing volleyball? And they were like, oh, okay, the school is really, really good. Everyone's either really, really nice or really, really smart. There's no, bullying issues or anything like that. And I'm like, oh, that's good. How's volleyball? And they said, oh, we have an okay team. Our best season was last season, but since we have a lot more people, this season is going to be great, and you're going to love it. And they're just like, okay, yeah, that's great. And, we were having a casual conversation. And then we hear the door fling open. When you open a door too fast, it hits the wall and it makes that loud crashing sound? That's what we heard. And this guy, Jordan, the other coach, Jordan, walks in. Jordan was one of the biggest, most muscular people I have ever seen. Those guys that you see, the pictures of the MMA fighters that, look something like this? That was him. And he was a huge, muscle head. He was real muscular. He was really, really tan, fitness junkie kind of person. And I was like, oh, shit, okay, he's gonna kill me. If I do something wrong, he looked like a generally angry person. And I was like, oh, shit, okay, he looks kind of scary. But he was actually really, really nice. He was the only one that was actually supportive of me. And so he was like, okay, girls, stand up, get in your little lines, and give me 20 jumping jacks. And we're just like, okay. We do our jumping jacks, we do push-ups, squats, all that stuff. And then he's like, okay. And there was a rack behind us. And they all had, 10 to 20 pound, between 10 and 20 pound medicine balls on them. And I don't know if some of you guys know what medicine balls are. I don't know why you wouldn't. But they're basically these big rubber, I think the outside coating is rubber, I have no clue what's in them. But they're these balls, they're basketball sized, and they are extremely heavy, depending on how many pounds each one is. But like I said, the ones on the rack were between 10 and 20 pounds, and they are extremely heavy. And so they're just like, okay, find a partner. So I went with that girl that I was talking to earlier, and they're like, okay, he's like, find a partner, and you pick up the ball and throw it over your head to your partner. And I'm just like, what? You expect me to pick up this 20-pound rubber, plastic, I don't know what the fuck is in them, kind of ball, and basically, this is my karaoke machine, I'm not actually gonna throw this, and basically throw it over my head and keep doing that. And I'm like, okay, that's, oh shit, I think I just broke the CD that's in here. No, that's fine. It's like, okay, that seems a little weird, but I did it. And I'm just like, maybe that gets us prepared for, spiking, because you have to do a lot of this. I'm like, it makes sense. And I was like, okay, we did a lot of that. And I was getting tired. I was like, okay, we didn't get any breaks, first of all. We didn't. And I was like, okay, that seems a little weird. And then he's like, okay, I'll be right back. I'll let Steve take over. And Steve walks in. When I first met Steve, when he was talking to me and my mom, he seemed like a generally friendly person. Friendly, nice, oh yeah, the girls are super nice, she'll have fun, everything's gonna be okay. So he got us all in these lines, and it was basically there was a line here, and another line here, and at the front of the line there was a treadmill. And he's just he explained it to me. This was where things started to get weird, and I knew this was going to be sketchy when I saw that we were going to be running on a treadmill. And I was just like, okay, that's a little weird. And when I say there was a treadmill, I mean, like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a workout room before where the treadmills are weird like this. But normally a treadmill lays flat, like this, like a normal fucking treadmill. But all these treadmills were pointed this way, so that they were, like, diagonal, and you had to run, like, diagonal. And he's just like, okay, he was explaining the exercise to me. He's like, okay, once you get to the front of the line, you have to get there, and you have to do 10 push-ups. And while you're doing push-ups, somebody else is on the treadmill. Then when they get off the treadmill, you have to run up, and I'm going to put it, and it's on the highest mode it can get. You just basically have to sprint as fast as you can for 45 seconds, get off, go to the back of the line, do 10 more push-ups, get back up, run on the treadmill, go back, do 10 more push-ups. And I'm like, hold on, what the fuck? So I'm just like, this has nothing to do with volleyball. We're like 15-year-old girls. What makes you think that we're going to be able to do this? And he's just like, well, you know, it has to do with, like, training and stuff, just blah, 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 all the regular trainer bullshit. And so I'm just like, okay, and I did it. But it was extremely tiring, and I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I was sweating, I was a mess, it was awful, and I'm just like, okay, I feel like I'm dying. We had to do that like 10 times in a row. It was awful, and it was consistent. It wasn't like, it was like, okay, run up, treadmill, drop, 10 push-ups, run up, treadmill. We had to do that for like 10 minutes, and it was awful. And the thing was, my mom explained to Steve that I was not a very athletic person, and that, like, it's gonna take some getting used to. And he said, yeah, it's definitely gonna take some getting used to. Like, the workout's pretty standard. Like, you know, she can handle it, probably. I think the workout's pretty standard. It has to do with a lot of stuff with, like, you know, learning and stuff. He went on, I didn't hear the rest of the conversation, but he thought that I was gonna be able to handle this. And he wasn't, but my mom told him, he's like, yeah, if she's having trouble, we're gonna try to help her. And so halfway through, as he realized that I was getting tired and I was, like, about to pass out by the end of that, he didn't do anything to try to help me. He just yelled at me. And I know that sometimes fitness trainers like, you know you want it, come on, get back up, run. He wasn't even being like that. He was trying to explain the exercise to me towards the end, because I kind of forgot. But he wasn't being nice about it. He was like, okay, so you get back, and then you do a couple burpees, and then you do more push-ups. You know what a burpee is, right? And I'm just like, yeah. Yeah, and he said, okay, get on your knees, do a burpee right now. And he was straight up screaming at me, not in the way that a normal trainer would, but just in a very rude way. And I was like, okay, damn. So, we went through that, and I was like, okay. I was practically dying at this point. I was very tired, very stressed out, and my legs hurt from all the running, and I'm just like, okay. And then we didn't get any breaks, first of all, let me say that. But we went over, and Jordan took over, and so at least so we get to the next part, and the next part there were like these boards. I don't know how to describe what they looked like. Like, they looked kind of like surfboards, although they were like surfboards nailed to the ground, and they had the slippery stuff on them. So if you tried to step on them, you'd like slip. And so they made us slide from one end of the surfboard to the other. It wasn't that bad. It was just basically doing this. I didn't understand the point of that. But, so I was like, okay, whatever, this seems fairly normal. Then you had to switch, go around, and there was a medicine ball sitting on the floor. And I don't know if you know, like, what it looks like when there's a volleyball sitting on the floor. It's not very high up off the ground. Let me flip my camera and I will show you what I'm talking about. So basically, this is about my karaoke machine, the purple thing, is about the size as the volleyball is off the floor. It only goes maybe about like 3 or 4 inches off the floor. It's not very tall. So that's how tall, like, the volleyballs were that were sitting on the floor. So he said, okay, and then you gotta go over to the volleyball, and you gotta squat down so low that your butt cheeks touch the volleyball that is 3 inches off the ground. You gotta squat down so low that you touch the volleyball, that your butt touches the volleyball, and you gotta do that 35 times. And I'm like, what? I understand doing squats for volleyball, but normally you go down only about that low. But I can't even do it anymore. That really fucked up my legs. I can't even do that anymore. But the volleyball was only 2 or 3 inches off the ground, and he wanted us to squat down so low that we were practically sitting on the floor and then stand back up, and he wanted us to do it fast, and he wanted us to do it 35 times. And I'm like, hell no! Like, at least, and he was like trying to explain it to me. He's like, hey, I know it's hard, like, but, you know, and he was like helping me. He's like, here, give me your hands. I'm like, okay, okay. Like, it got easier as I went along because he was like helping me, but it was awful. And so I was like, okay, hold on, I need a minute. He's just like, okay, get some water. And I was like, alright, then we went back to it, and I went through like 2 more rounds of that. And I was like, I went up to Jordan, and I was like, hey, I'm not feeling too great. Like, I was extremely lightheaded, I was sweating all over the place, like I was dripping sweat, my hair was bleeding, so I had blue going all down my face. I was like, hey, I feel like I'm either gonna pass out or throw up. And he's just like, okay, go out, take a break, get some water, that's good, you're doing great, you're doing great. He was a good motivator for how he looked. You know, low-key, he was, like, I know, he was a very muscular fitness junkie person. He was like half fitness junkie, half porn star put together. Like half fitness junkie, half gay porn star put him together. That was Jordan. But he was really nice. And he was like, okay, sit out for a minute, take a break. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, okay, I got a little water. And I'm like, okay, I think I can go back in now. So I did. And I go back in. The first thing I see is Steve coming in with these things that were basically sleds, like a toboggan sled. It was basically those, only they were completely made out of metal. And they had 2 rods on either side, like stickied up. They had a rod stickied up on each corner. And there were ropes strapped to them. And then on each one of the little rods, he put 2 5-pound iron plates. Like, you know those plates that you put on the side of like weights and stuff so that when you like lie down and you can lift like this? He put like he put 2 of them 5-pound plates on each one of the rods. So that's 20 pounds on this one sled. And he's like, okay, we're gonna get this done now. And there's 2 ropes on either side that are tied to both parts of the front rods of the toboggan. And if I could draw it for you, I would. Give me a minute. Oh, this is gonna suck, and this is a green Sharpie. And this is my notebook. I'm gonna try to draw this for you because it's hard to describe. Okay, so this was the little toboggan thing right here. And I know it's a shitty line, but just deal with it. And there were 4 rods going up on either corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so there were 2 ropes strapped to the front of it. So 1 on this rod and 1 on this rod. And can you see this? So there were 2 ropes strapped right here, 1 on this rod, 1 on this rod on the front. And then he put like the little 5-pound iron plates on each one. There were 2 of them on either side, on the back and on the front, like underneath the ropes. And he's just like, okay, I'm gonna explain this next exercise to you. This is gonna be good. So basically, this was literally the worst part. I have no idea why he expected us to do this. Basically, fuck, where'd the drawing go? There it is. So basically what you had to do was take this, and we got into the big space that was in the middle. I don't know how far it was across, but it was pretty far. Basically, the 2 ropes here, you're supposed to strap them to either one of your legs, like right under the knee. So like by your calves, like right here. And shit. I know you can't see my leg, but I swear it's there. Like right, you have to strap it like right underneath your knee, like by your calves. And so you have to take either one of these ropes and strap them to your lower legs. And while these little iron plates were still on them, on this metal toboggan, you had to basically pull it back and forth across the gym floor like 3 or 4 times. And you had like 20 seconds to do it. So that's basically 20 pounds plus the weight of the toboggan. I had no idea how heavy it was. Basically just pulling all that with your lower legs. We are young teenage girls, 14, 15, 16 years old. How do you expect us to do this? That could probably kill our legs. What does that have anything to do with volleyball? Keep in mind, I meant to mention in the past couple takes, none of these things seem like they had anything to do with volleyball. Like, I understand leg workouts and running back and forth and doing lunges, those have to do with volleyball, because in volleyball you're supposed to stay low, like this. And like, you know, it makes sense. But making us drag a 40-pound, like almost a 40-pound metal toboggan across the floor by basically our calves, that has nothing to do with volleyball. Why are you making us do this? So we had to basically drag this thing across the floor by our legs. It was awful. It hurt so bad. It was like 40 pounds altogether. Halfway through, I dropped, and I was really feeling really sick. And I was like, guys, I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. And Steve, being the asshole that he had been to me for most of the day, he was like, no, come on, you just gotta keep trying, you know? And Jordan's like, hey, dude, stop. If you feel like you're gonna throw up, the bathroom's right there. I'm like, okay. And I stopped, and I ran into the bathroom, and I threw up, and it was awful. I was crying. I was a mess. I was just like, I can't do it anymore. You're gonna kill me. So I went up to Jordan afterwards, and he was super nice about it, by the way. But he was like, yeah, I felt like a complete failure because all the other girls could do the workout, like, perfectly fine. They were able to pull this 40-pound toboggan by the bottom of their legs. They were like 14 years old, and they were all able to do the workout, and I felt extremely left out. I looked really stupid next to them. And so I went back after I threw up, and I was sitting in the little waiting room, and Jordan came in to check on me, and he was like, hey, are you okay? Like, and he was like telling me, like, it's okay, everybody throws up, it's fine. And I'm just like, I understand that he was trying to motivate me, but at the same time, 14-year-olds should not be doing a workout that's that hard. Like, you don't make 14, 15, 16-year-old high school girls pull 40-pound sleds across a floor by their ankles. Like, that's practically like something like a slave owner would do. That's what it sounded like. So he was telling me everything, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna have to call my mom. I don't feel good. I feel like I have to go home. He's like, okay, go ahead, call your mom. And then I call my mom. I'm sitting on the phone, and no sound was coming through, and I remembered, there's no cell service out here. And I was like, oh, no wonder this is in the middle of scenic nowhere, so you can practically kill people, and they won't be able to tell their parents in the middle of it, so you practically don't kill them by the end of it. So they kept so I threw up again, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, okay, and Jordan was like, okay, just sit out. Steve wasn't happy with me, but Jordan was like, okay, sit out. You can just watch. And they kept doing stuff that was even worse after the toboggan thing. Like, I'm not even going to get into detail of how bad it was. And then for the last 10 minutes, we went outside and played volleyball. For the last 10 minutes. So basically, afterwards, when I got back with my mom, I told my mom everything that I just told you. And she's like, okay, we're not taking you back there. But I was pissed. I was like, you guys expect, like, high school girls, like myself, and girls transferring into high school, like some of the other girls that were there, to do a workout that is basically for, I wouldn't say Olympians, because that's kind of a high title, but like something like that for girls that are our age. That is way too much. And it had absolutely nothing to do with volleyball, like almost none of it did. And then we played volleyball outside for the last 10 minutes. And I'm just like, that makes no sense to me. Like, how is that okay? Like, does anybody else at the school know about this? Like, how is this okay? And I'm not trying to bash anybody here. I'm just saying that if you're gonna get somebody to do a workout that's related to a sport, you make the workout about things that are related to the sport. You don't make it about testing upper body strength, and you don't make it about them pulling really heavy weights across the room, because that has nothing to do with volleyball at all. So that was just kind of my update, little rant story time. I know it was a long one, but thank you for bearing with me as I told the story. But my legs are a mess. I can barely stand up. And I'm going out with a couple friends tomorrow, so I'm not going to be able to walk. They're going to have to carry me everywhere because my legs are a mess. I can barely stand up. I'm out of breath. And it's awful. It was awful. And I'm not going back. I'm still going to try out for the team, because I know I am a good volleyball player, but that workout had nothing to do with volleyball, so I'm not going to do that workout anymore. But yeah, I'm just telling the story. So I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have a good day or night or whatever.
Goodbye!